The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Integration That Outperforms, Integrate Your Magic App to Salesforce CRM. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software Americas, and we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar where we will be exploring our topic of how to integrate your Magic application with the Salesforce CRM. We're assuming a relative amount of familiarity on your part with the Magic XPA application platform or earlier versions such as the Unipass application platform. And we'll be focusing on the integration side of today's discussion, how it is that you can make your application share information bidirectionally and just the way you want it. We'll talk about that in details with the Salesforce CRM system and the Force.com platform in general. So welcome to today's topic. We hope that you will get some things out of this, and that in the course of our discussion, if there are any questions, please feel free to enter those into the chat box, and we'll try to get to those at the conclusion of today's presentation. So let's go ahead and begin our look at today's topic. When we think about CRM integration, there's a real value gap and a real need for the integration that's possible, because CRM systems are in theory, bringing together all of the marketing and sales and CRM service information together so that you can have a 360-degree view of the customer. The benefit of that, of course, is that you have integrated data, you have smooth running business processes, information's all rationalized and synchronous and so forth, and that's the promise of CRM. But we know that in reality, in most enterprises, these are not the only systems that we run. We obviously run ERP systems. We run other enterprise software. Your Magic application is in a lot of environments, either in your own environment or in one of your customers' environments, where it is being used alongside of Salesforce. Salesforce is being used alongside of your Magic application that's bringing a lot of value to the organization as well. So as a result, there may be some degradation in this promise of 360-degree view, because information sits in silos. Or you may have some processes that allow the information to be shared, but they're too manual, they're too expensive, they're too time-consuming in the amount of programming effort that's required. And so we want to talk about how you can really automate that integration piece in a way that brings real value to the organization. So this value gap exists across a number of organizations. It's often described as the old idea of the data silo or the information silo. And when we think of that, the whole point is you have all of these different applications. My Magic application, maybe an ERP system. Maybe you built something around supply chain management and so on. Maybe you're using third-party applications like SharePoint, and you're obviously using Salesforce in the cloud in today's topic. And these are all like nuclear missile silos where the operator doesn't know what's going on in the rest of the world. He lacks information, and therefore it's difficult to understand the command and control orders that are being received. So this whole silo analogy has been with us, I guess, since the days of the Cold War. But what it's really trying to get across is this idea of a dysfunctional process. And it's not just about data or information. It's about the business process itself. Many times there are gaps in the business process where one application only takes it so far, but the customer or your employees are expecting something much more than that, and that often involves other software systems. Sometimes those systems need to have multiple interactions with one another, but they simply don't interact today. And so we'll talk about how we can deal with that. So even a cursory examination of what's going on in a lot of businesses today will show that the CRM and the ERP and the other systems in that environment are lacking integration. There are logical business processes. Lead to order is one of the most obvious ones, where you have a lead in a CRM system like Salesforce that at some point becomes an order. and at that point the quote or needs to be converted. The opportunity needs to be converted into an order in an accounting system, and bills need to be sent and so forth. So that is all a part of an example that is a spanning of a business process between two different systems. It's not just about sharing data, but it's about connecting the processes in an automated way so that things happen quickly, in real time or near real time. In many instances, that's where the requirement or where the bar is really set. So this isolation that takes place is really bad news for customers. There's nothing worse than finding out that that item that you want to order online just won't be available to be shipped today and arrive tomorrow. In today's society, that's kind of the expectation that's being built up, and so we want to be able to push back those order cutoffs, as far as possible. Just to use one example. So data isolation, unfortunately, can stand in the way of that. If you have business processes that require some human interaction, some double data entry, or some batch job to run the next day or something like that, then you're really out of luck. And so you want to obviously synchronize these business processes using the APIs of the various systems. Now, with your Magic application, the extent to which you've constructed an API is unknown to me, obviously, at this point. But the good news that we'll be talking about today is how all of those Magic XPA components or Unipass components are actually accessible for integration, and we'll talk a little bit about how that's done. So the same is true on the Salesforce side. Just because there's a Salesforce API doesn't mean that the data is formatted in the way that you expect it to be, that it's logically consistent, that the business process is matched. And so you need some sort of intermediation and transformation processes to be taking place, and it's much better to deal with that at a platform level than it is at a programmatic level where you're having to write all the code in order to do that. So the gap that exists between enterprise software, ERP, and CRM systems, is something that results from this process and data isolation as we're describing it. And integrating these processes really helps. It means that you're going to be able to maximize the output, the productivity. You're going to reduce errors, reduce costs, increase employee satisfaction more than likely, and improve customer service as a result of having systems that just work together well. And so we would suggest that an effort towards integration is definitely worthwhile, that there's value to be had there, and there's no reason to jump off the ledge, so to speak here, but actually to take advantage of automation that's available. Standalone enterprise software and CRM systems, being inherently isolated, there's a lot of repetitive, tedious, and lengthy manual tasks. Phone calls are used, emails are used to pass information, and users are, constantly switching back and forth between open applications and screens. And these are process gaps, and these gaps cause real risk to an organization. The error, the slower response times, the increased process costs, the deteriorating satisfaction of your employees, not to mention customers, are all, of course, a factor. So when you're facing that gap between systems, an organizational decision has to be made, and there are typically three options that we talk about people being able to make. One is you can decide to do nothing at all. You can just live with it, live with the gaps, live with the manual processes that are bridging them today, and you'll continue to, move along, but to suffer some consequence and perhaps even competitive disadvantage as a result. The second thing you can do is make a decision to write a software program. You can write it in Magic XPA. You could write it in a traditional, language, in Java, in C, in whatever. That there are, obviously, if we're going to say if you're going to do that, use Magic XPA, but there are definitely a lot of things that you would have to do in order to make all that happen. How do you write all of that code to do things like data mapping, which is already built in, obviously, to the Magic XPI integration platform? How do you intermediate, the error recovery processes and all that, which are already built in to a platform like Magic XPI. So it's very useful to look at XPI as a complement to what you're doing in XPA. And then a third option, of course, is to say, no, look at a large middleware vendor. Look at an IBM WebSphere brand, which is comprised of about 40 different products, or the Oracle Fusion middleware brand, which again has about 35 or 40 products in that set. Certainly they're used by a lot of very large enterprise organizations, and it's something that smart people consider doing. So all of these are very real options. We're not suggesting that they're not. But we're obviously suggesting that the fourth option is a better choice, where an application integration platform like Magic XPI that is really suited to applying business process management approaches with a minimum amount of programming, and particularly for Magic XPA application developers who can take advantage of their Magic XPA components directly in the Magic XPI environment. Wow, that's kind of an exciting thing to think about, having an orchestration tool for your Magic XPA business logic, and that is what we're talking about, showing today. So there are the three common mistakes, unfortunately, that are selected. Doing nothing, manual programming, heavy middleware. These mistakes are fairly common, and when you see them out there, there are consequences. So the consequences to these are that if you avoid doing anything, pretending that nothing is wrong, it's really only ignoring problems that are under the surface. And so there are realistically issues that are taking place, that we don't perhaps realize, that our competitors are improving business processes, are pushing their order cutoffs back, are getting the kind of service response times that they need in the field, that are reducing costs because of the automation of business processes, and all of that can become a detriment to competitiveness. Not to mention, of course, as we've said, that manual processes are costly, they're error-prone, they don't scale well. So if your business is growing, this can be a significant issue, and they result in data duplication. There are a lot of organizations that have rush periods, for example. People that do a lot of retail business have peak periods. Manufacturers have peak periods, and if the business processes don't scale well, then you're going to have delays and critical path of integration or lack of integration that can really be a problem. So the other approach, as we said, is to just write your own line-by-line code. We don't recommend that because of the lack of architecture that's typically present when that's done. Unless you spend 100 man-years developing a well-architected platform like Magic XPI, then you're likely to have spaghetti code, so to speak, where you have point-to-point integration that's extremely fragile because it is not using loosely coupled principles. It's not using an object-oriented, loosely coupled type of approach. And so custom programming for integration is typically recognized as a mistake. It's cited by auditors. IT audits that are done will, if they find it, they will cite it as a risk factor in the organization. And so this is where people typically then look to middleware as the solution. And so when middleware is looked at, unfortunately, sometimes the very large middleware providers, because they're so well known, understandably, are considered first, and they have a wide variety of middleware products. Unfortunately, those products are overlapping. They're confusing. They place a burden in and of themselves on an IT department. How do you integrate all of your middleware products when you have an ESB, and you have a BPEL tool, and you have a SOA tool, and you have a this tool and that? It becomes rather confusing just to think which pieces of this 40 solution set do I need. And we're not just talking about product variations, that would cause them to have 40 SKUs in the software offering. But we're literally talking about different products. The data integration tools, this tool, that tool. They all are part of a middleware solution that could functionally can all be accomplished with the Magic XPA application platform in 99% of the situations that we see, rather than requiring some sort of piece-by-piece approach to middleware. And that is what we consider the Titanic type approach. So as a result of all this complexity that's out there, Gartner has said that large enterprises spend up to 40% of their IT budgets on integration, which is just incredible. And that's, again, we're talking about a lot of these large middleware-based solutions that have staff overhead, resources that need to be dedicated, maintenance and support fees, as well as license costs. And these integration platforms, of course, such as Magic, are kind of a breath of fresh air, because the Magic XPI integration platform provides a single solution set and allows you to really work from a single stack. And the fact that that's directly integrated to your Magic XPA application platform components and programs is incredible, because that just gives you, as a Magic XPA software owner, an incredible advantage over even a lot of others out there in the marketplace to be able to take advantage of the integration platform. So it's suggested that you don't fill this gap with a sea of programmers, but that rather you bridge the gap properly, using a tool set that's been designed from the ground up to work with Magic XPA and Unipass, and to work with all of the enterprise software systems that are out there, including Salesforce. And we're going to go into detail on what you can do with Salesforce here in terms of the ability to manipulate the various capabilities of the Salesforce API, and to discover even customization, for example, that's taking place in that Salesforce environment. So with a metadata-driven platform such as Magic XPI, you simplify the integration of ERP and other enterprise software to CRM. You can also handle other things, portal integration systems like SharePoint or your e-commerce platform, product lifecycle management systems, and then even other ERP systems if you have more than one in your organization. So this gives you an ability to trigger events, to orchestrate business processes, and use a service-oriented architecture approach, or SOA principles, without all of the undue complexity that heavy middleware solutions would normally associate to that capability. So Magic XPI integration platform has an advantage in that it's able to work with the Salesforce API directly, and any component in a Magic XPA application. So the Magic XPA or Unipass service within Magic XPI lets you create a component that provides additional logic and functionality in your flow by using the Magic XPA or Unipass Studio. So you can call that Magic XPA component or program, if you will, from Magic XPI. And when you're in the middle of doing this, using the Magic XPA Studio, you can access help topics on this that explain how to use Magic XPA services in your integration project. And also, you'll find that in Magic XPI, there's some explanation on this as well. So you use the Magic XPA service to generate various components that can be invoked in a flow using this Magic Studio. So those components are invoked from Magic XPI, basically giving you the capability to do what was written in that Magic XPA interface. So that can include exchange of information, obviously, with your back-end application in Magic XPA. And that's really what it's all about, is providing an API for your Magic XPA applications that can interact with anything that Magic XPI can interact with, which is, of course, every other Magic XPA application, by the way, and Salesforce.com, Salesforce CRM specifically, and the Force.com platform as well. So beyond that, you're going to have other ERP systems, CRM systems, and specific things like email servers that are all directly supported. There's an Exchange server component, a SharePoint component, a capability for working with Word and Excel and Microsoft Office. Lots of different examples of, on the productivity side of things, but also in terms of, major enterprise software systems and legacy systems, custom systems written in RPG, running on an IBM I, for example, would be another good example. So there's no limit to the number of Magic XPA or Unipass service components that you can call in a flow. You can use as much of your Magic XPA backend applications as you want, calling those exposed components. And so to do that, of course, you need to be a Magic XPA developer to make them available. And this is the part you know. The part that you're perhaps less familiar with is, how do I orchestrate all of this in Magic XPI, and what can I actually do with Salesforce? What information can I get out of Salesforce? What are the business process possibilities? So let's look at that. Let's look at Salesforce's API and what the Magic XPI integration platform will expose to you from the Salesforce API as a Magic XPA developer so that you can get information in and out of your application. So the basic areas that we'll cover are objects, so Salesforce objects, Salesforce metadata or CRM metadata, bulk job control, replication of information automatically, and lead conversion specifically as process is one that you'll want to look at. So let's look at those 5 topics and see in more detail what's involved. With Salesforce's objects, you can utilize Magic XPI to access the functions within those objects. So there's a long list of Salesforce objects. Sometimes that list changes due to customization in the Salesforce environment. So what you'll want to do is, first of all, understand that Magic XPI is able to dynamically generate its component in such a way that it looks at your Salesforce environment, pulls all of the objects out, and then exposes them in Magic XPI in the dialog boxes that you use to configure the icons in your business process flow. So that dialog box has all the up-to-date, customized aspects of your Salesforce environment available so that you can now interact with those. So that's powerful to remember that ability to work with the customization is there. And working with the Salesforce objects, you'll be able to get the timestamp of these objects. You'll be able to get a list of objects. You'll be able to update the object structure. And sometimes you need to merge objects. You can actually merge the objects via Magic XPI and therefore via Magic XPA in your application because you're interacting with XPI. So you have that powerful capability available to you. As we said, you'll also be able to work with the metadata in Salesforce. So when you're working with Salesforce metadata, you can check on the status of metadata operations. Now, you'll have the basic, create, read, update, and delete CRUD operations, and you'll be able to retrieve and deploy metadata, check the metadata state in Salesforce. So having that capability as you get more familiar with the Salesforce environment gives you business process control. It gives you awareness of what's going on, what the state is of the various operations in Salesforce, and therefore an ability to interact with them programmatically from Magic XPA via your Magic XPI integration platform. Now, bulk jobs are something that give the integrator with the Salesforce environment a lot of power. Now, you'll obviously need to be using more than just the basic level of Salesforce in order to have access to bulk jobs. But with the enterprise level versions of Salesforce, you have the ability to control bulk jobs. And going beyond just basic one record by record manipulations, you can actually work with these bulk jobs then in Magic XPI, therefore, and also from your Magic application, so that you can get the results of the jobs, you can check the status of a job, you can abort a job, and so forth, in order to control what's going on in these high-speed bulk data exchanges that can take place with the Salesforce environment. Replication is something that people want to do as well. There's still a lot of concern from a regulatory standpoint in some organizations that they must have their data, and there's also just a security and high availability and recovery concern that a lot of organizations have, which is not to say anything derogatory about the stability of the Salesforce environment, far from it. In most instances, I think we would all agree that the extent and degrees to which Salesforce can create high availability for its environment from a resource standpoint outstrip the resources of most enterprises, and so therefore it's a highly stable environment. But there are still all sorts of business scenarios, including lack of internet access, which would be number one, that require us to say we might need to have this information replicated somewhere else so that we can access it in a crisis, and in a crisis environment where there's no internet access for a more prolonged period of time than just a second or two. Well, that would require business thought to be given to replication processes, and you have access via the Magic XPI integration platform to various replication approaches. You can replicate all data, so you can have scheduled jobs where you'll replicate all of the data from your CRM environment into your enterprise environment, or you can just look at the updates and deletes and replicate those, modifying the previous replication that you have done. So those are some of the options that you have with regards to replication. Finally, we wanted to mention lead conversion. Lead conversion has a number of parameters associated to it, so that you can access the various data and metadata associated with a lead, and that lead then is converted from a lead into a contact, an account, and an opportunity. So there's a kind of a unique way of thinking about contact data in Salesforce, and that is that when the information first comes in, it's considered to be a lead. And at that point, it's not an account, it's not a customer, it's just someone who has interest, let's say. It's a raw lead, if you will. And a specific opportunity may not even have been identified with that raw lead at that point. So information comes in as raw leads, and then eventually will become a contact or an account based on further qualification, perhaps done by your sales team and so forth. So if you're interacting with this from other applications, then you want to trigger a conversion process, you can do that. Now, the conversion process that takes place is going to allow you to convert that lead to an account and convert the individual information within that lead into contacts. At the same time, you can create an opportunity. So the creation of the opportunity would be related to perhaps a contact and certainly the account level. And you can have multiple contacts, obviously, within an account, and multiple opportunities within an account. But the specific lead results in a single opportunity, typically, within that account and contact relationship. So there are relationships between all of these things. At that point, when it's converted, it's no longer a lead. That lead disappears in the system, and it is now an account or a contact, and perhaps also an opportunity associated to that, typically yes. So those are some of the considerations within the structure or the business logic of what's taking place from a Salesforce standpoint that are a little bit unique, because some organizations immediately bring in leads as contacts, and there's no differentiation between the two. The account is one level of the lead, the contact is another, and the lead really relates more perhaps to the opportunity itself, and it's associated to that. But Salesforce waits before it creates contacts and accounts until that point at which you choose to convert it. So in other words, you're qualifying that, saying there is some opportunity here. At that point, Salesforce wants to treat it as an account with a contact and an opportunity. All right, so the Magic XPI integration platform has this Salesforce component then, which, as we said, is dynamically configured. It can integrate any Salesforce CRM application and any other Force.com application. For those of you not all that familiar with the Salesforce environment, the Force.com is considered to be the platform that Salesforce CRM runs upon, and it includes its own development language, if you will, that allows people to create third-party Force.com applications. They all use the same API. So the Magic Salesforce API is not only accessing Salesforce CRM, it can access, as we said, dynamically upload all of those objects and functions from any Force.com application out there. So this gives you the ability to not only integrate your Magic XPA applications to Salesforce CRM, but to literally any of the over 1,000 different Force.com applications that are out there. So that's kind of interesting as well, and then it provides you access to a lot of cloud-based, rather micro applications. There tend to be very specific business functions that most of them are associated with, although there are a few larger applications that have been based on that platform as well. Not as many though. Mostly they're, I guess you would say, complementary tool sets to the basic core CRM functionality of Salesforce CRM. And as we look at the Magic XPI integration platform, it has a very nice visual interface that allows you to work with the Magic XPI Studio, and you see that the navigation pane in the upper left contains the list of your business process flows. These business process flows are basically comprised of the visual set of almost like a flow chart that you see in the large pane there on the right, and that is created by simply dragging and dropping the components from the left into the flow. And then you'll notice at the top there's a blue area there for trigger components. So you actually have the ability to specify which things are triggering this flow. Now, it might simply be called by another flow and may not have its own trigger. But sometimes it's just sitting there and looking at what's happening in back-end systems and waiting to be triggered, and then it starts itself based on that trigger component that you have identified. So you have a number of different options, obviously, in terms of the business logic that goes here with full access to data mapping capabilities that are very powerful in terms of the ability to control arithmetic and numeric operations and so forth. So the business process editor is also included, and this is a higher level tool which is really designed to communicate more to the business analyst or business user what's going on in the integration process. So each of these, for example, you could drill down perhaps to a business process flow underneath in that environment. Now, the flow editor, as we said, is drag, drop, and configure. So once those icons are dropped into a flow, you can configure them. So you have the ability to look into the various business objects that are available to you in your application, and then to perform the operations that that component makes available, whether queries, adds, updates, deletes, and so on, that can be a part of that configuration process. Now, at the heart of most of these business process flows is some sort of data mapping that transforms the data, that tells you, from your source field, map it to this destination field. You may have joins taking place. You may have business logic. You see the FX icons there in the data mapping flows. These are actually functions, and so each of the functions that are there have, as I mentioned, full logical, arithmetic, and numeric and text operators, and so forth. So you have almost, the similar capabilities to any programming language, basically, with just in a single expression within the line that is telling that data how to be transformed. So that makes it very powerful and pretty in-depth in terms of what's possible here. But you have this wonderful architected environment for managing those data process transformations and flows, and so that each instance of a flow that takes place passes through here. And of course, the logic is parametric, so that you don't have to design a data map for every possible instance. You can make it parametric or conditional based on the particular instance of that flow that is executing, and the data and conditions that exist. On either side of those data maps are not only SQL databases, but also XML, and the operational data store of Magic XPI, which is all of the metadata storage for Magic XPI, can be mapped in there and controlled. User-defined storage is accessible to you in the data map. The variables of the flow, the variables of the Magic XPI environment are available to you, and flat file information. There's a lot there that you can access. So that gives you a lot of control over what's taking place in your integration processes. When you look at the Magic XPI Studio, the server, the monitor, they're sold together as a unified integration platform solution. The server itself, you really can't see, it just runs. So the monitor is used to provide visibility into that back-end environment, what's happening in the server, so that you can see a log of what's taking place, and you can control what gets recorded in the log and which attachments you want to make to the log, so that you can investigate and see exactly what's happened in the business process flow. You also have the ability through that monitor to look at a more dashboard-like view, which would be total number of executions of that process in a particular time period, the average execution time or latency, if there were errors, how many errors were there, and so on. So that is a very useful capability for seeing what's going on in the server. And then, of course, the studio environment is the visual environment that allows you to create those actual flows. We also have, a lot of legacy-related capabilities here, so that if you're, for example, running in the IBM iSeries environment, you have full access to very unique capabilities of that environment that normally wouldn't be available to a middleware developer working in Windows. So you have access to the IBM I user space, the data queue, the print spool, obviously to the database, the DB2400 or SQL. You have access to the command line, which is very powerful, because that means you can call any RPG program, any COBOL program, any type of CL command with the operating system, and so on. So that's very useful, because you can actually pass parameters back and forth to those RPG batch programs in particular that most people are trying to get access to. So this has been, the overview of what is possible Hope that that is useful information. We have won a number of awards recently at Magic. As you've probably heard, we got the Frost & Sullivan 2014 Innovation Award for Magic XPI, just announced this last week. The ST Times 100 Award for middleware. Last year, we got the Developer Week Top Innovator for Mobile Development, or I don't know, that might have been earlier this year. It's fairly recent. The Mobile Star Awards last year, the CIO Choice Award last year. We received, of course, the Salesforce Integration Award. That is really kind of, I think, validation for what's taking place here. So we certainly encourage you to inquire further. You know, as a Magic XPA application platform developer, there's a lot to be learned here. One of the places that we would encourage you to do that is at our upcoming users conference, which is June 2nd to the 4th, not the 14th. Sorry, that was my typo there. June 2nd to the 4th, 2014, at the Waterfront Beach Resort in Huntington Beach, California, better known as Surf City, USA in some circles. And we are really excited to have everyone coming because we're going to have a full team of resources available this year like we've never had before in terms of more speakers, more support personnel on hand. R&D, of course, will be there. Yuval Sherry is joining us once again. And so we're really looking forward to that conference and invite you to go to the Magic website, look in the events section, and sign up for that. June 2nd through the 4th. It's $595 per attendee. That basically doesn't even begin to cover our costs for putting on the event, literally. And the food, and we're also making sure that the rooms are affordable for you. Although this is a wonderful resort, we've actually subsidized the room rate. So if you get in on the group rate, you're going to have great advantage there as well. So it's, I think, going to be a very worthwhile experience, and we just wanted to provide some mention to that because it really does provide a way to continue what we've been talking about here on a more theoretical basis and a hands-on basis and interacting with the technical support, professional services, and R&D departments at Magic in doing so. So at this point, we'll open it up for any questions that we might have here. Just taking a look for anything in the question and chat area. So go ahead and type those in, and we will be happy to take your questions at that time. So go ahead, and we'll give you just a moment to put those in. Oh, first question is in, can we see a demonstration? Yes, you can. We didn't schedule a demonstration as part of today's webinar, but we will certainly invite you to talk to us, and we can set up a one-on-one for that. I'll be happy to do that so that you can look at Salesforce and consider its integration further with your Magic XPA application environment. Just give us a shout out. Again, the contact information for doing that is here. So you can call 949-250-1718. You can ask for me, Glenn Johnson, or Angela Burton is always here in the mornings, and she's real good at setting up appointments for folks. And then you could also just shoot an email to info@magicsoftware.com if that's easier. Be happy to get a time set up for you to look at a demonstration. Okay, the question was, are the bulk operations directly available in Magic XPA or Unipass? Well, yeah, I mean, you can write Magic programs that handle the API calls of Salesforce. The challenge of that is the intermediation of the communications and all of the things that have to take place there. And so there's a lot of business logic and what-if scenarios that are handled more automatically by the integration platform. But yeah, in theory, you could write a web service, of course, that would handle that. But then you'd have, for example, to do the discovery and so forth. So those are some considerations that you'd have to look at. I think if you're looking to do very much integration with Salesforce, like and if your environments are going to be changing fairly frequently, then certainly using the platform is going to save you a lot of time and effort, give you a more manageable environment. Plus, it can integrate to non-Magic entities as well, which beyond just Salesforce, which in many instances is going to be an additional requirement. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in at this point, so I want to thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on another Magic Software webinar. Have a great day.